Welcome to Booking the Territory, a pro wrestling podcast hosted by Mike Mills and Doc Turner. This podcast is all about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. And now, here's your host, Mike Mills.
All right, you just heard me in my introduction and who I have for you as a guest today on this week's episode of the Booking the Territory podcast, and he is Ring of Honor star Donovan Dijak. Donovan, welcome to the show. How's it going today?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm hanging in there. I can't complain. It's a rainy day in Texas, but other than that, I'm doing good on this wonderful Halloween day. Hey, before we get into any type of wrestling discussion or anything else that I wanted to talk to you about, one of the main things I wanted to ask you was, or I wanted you to talk about your GoFundMe campaign that is benefiting breast cancer research. As of, I think right now, I think you had hit your goal. So I kind of had two questions for you. One was, being that you hit the goal, were you going to keep going? And, well, that's the question I have. Are you going to keep going with it, being that you hit the goal? Because I thought that was pretty astonishing. It seemed like in less than a week you were able to nail that.
Yeah, it was actually less than 3 days. I started it, I want to say on Wednesday morning. Yeah, so it was definitely surprising that everything happened so quickly. We were able to break $1,000 this morning, which I was, I'm thankful. First and foremost, I'm thankful to everybody who was able to donate. It was just kind of something that I came up with on a random Wednesday morning, and I thought would be a good use of GoFundMe. So now I'm just looking forward to. I don't even know how to withdraw the money, to be honest, but I'm looking forward to taking care of that process, getting the money over to the people at the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, and I guess from here going forward, I'm going to continue to work with Ring of Honor, see what kind of charities they're looking to support going forward. It was my hope that I could use the GoFundMe on like a monthly basis, like maybe a new foundation every month, and maybe debut it on the first of every month, and then see if we can get up to $1,000 for every foundation, depending on what month, and maybe I can ask for fans' feedback on what charities they want to support. I don't know. There's a lot of directions I can go with it. I don't think I'm ever going to close any of the accounts, so if people want to continue to support, that'll be awesome, and I'll continue to plug away. And I know that there's people who've mentioned to me that these particular foundations mean a lot to them, so they're gonna, whether it be contributing their tips going forward every week to the GoFundMe accounts. That's all awesome. I'll raise the target goal, and I'll get it up higher so we can reach a new goal, and whatever it happens to be, I'll just keep plugging away because stuff like this means way more to me than my T-shirt funds or whatever else other thing I can plug on social media. So to me, I'm just happy that I can finally put having 6,000 followers and the backing of Ring of Honor. It's got a bunch of other followers, and my Facebook followers and my Facebook fans and stuff like that. I'm just so happy that I was able to sort of broadcast this this effort to a vast audience, and that they were able to respond so graciously.
Yeah, the thing that struck me when I saw it, there was two things. One is, so many people use GoFundMe right now for reasons that they probably shouldn't. That was the first thing. The second thing, and so I like the fact that you were using it for this. The second thing about it was, maybe it was just me, but within the last few weeks, like, I'm a big football fan, so I see kind of like what the NFL does, and I don't like bashing wrestling organizations, but like the whole Susan G. Komen with WWE and things like that, and you kind of pointed this out in the note that you made on the GoFundMe that really struck a chord with me and just everything that I've read. And I don't have specific data on this right now, but how much when you give to these certain organizations, it actually goes to actual research. And that to me is disheartening as somebody who's lost 2 grandparents and a father to cancer, not breast cancer, but cancer nonetheless. And that was the main thing that, I saw. I'm like, nah, this is the right thing to do because, I can go buy a T-shirt where, I don't know, a couple of pennies. I may be exaggerating, so I don't want to don't quote me. But, I can go buy a T-shirt and say, yeah, well, this, $1 of the $20 I spent on this T-shirt can go to research. But with you, if I give you $20, if I give you $30, I know the bulk of that, not $1, is going towards the research. So I applaud you for that, using that platform that you have. Like, it just strikes, it strikes a chord with me because not enough people use GoFundMe for the right reasons. It's just my personal opinion. I know lately it's got a lot of backlash. You kind of mentioned that, but I applaud you for doing it and using it for things such as that in a positive way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I can't speak to. I don't have enough research or information to say, what those other foundations are donating or how much of their proceeds go to what. All I know is that I saw what Ring of Honor was doing. I looked into the company that they were supporting, and I did my research on that particular company, and they have all sorts of accolades in terms of, one of the best foundations and something like 98% of their proceeds or something like that. So it's, A+ all across the board from different companies, nonprofits that rank those sort of things. So the more research I did, the more I realized that this was legitimately helping people. And to me, that was very important. And any foundation that I decide to set up to support with these GoFundMe campaigns is going to have the same sort of research and backing. I mean, maybe not necessarily the full-fledged support of Ring of Honor specifically. I don't know who they plan on supporting going forward. I know I had some talks with some people in the Ring of Honor office, so they might be picking and choosing some different foundations, and if they do, that's awesome, and I'll be happy to support them too. But I'm gonna see what I can do in terms of different foundations that maybe mean something to me personally, or mean something to friends of mine personally, or my relatives, or whatever it happens to be. Something that I find meaningful, and I'm going to make sure that whatever it is, whatever foundation I choose to support, that they're just as dedicated to their cause as the Breast Cancer Research Foundation is to theirs.
I applaud you, man. That's good. That's good. I'll be on the lookout on your Twitter line and retweeting it because I'm all for supporting things like that. It's
definitely
nothing but positive.
And everybody who supported me financially, I'm very thankful to them. Everybody who helped share my posts and retweet my stuff, I'm super thankful to them as well. Because spreading the word is important, and donating is also important. So I'm happy and thankful that it got such a great reception, and I know that the money is going to get put to a really good use, and I hope that the Breast Cancer Research Foundation can continue to do the great work that they've been doing thus far, and hopefully one day bring an end to breast cancer as it stands today.
We're gonna get there one day. It's just a matter of when, hopefully.
Right. Yeah.
With the research dollars. So, all right. So just to change the subject a little bit, like I said, you all go out there and you go follow Donovan on Twitter and retweet it because he got I saw a lot of retweets from people with it. So continue doing that and help him out with his goals and what he's gonna do going forward in the future. Like you said, he's not really sure. Make sure he's going to do something, so make sure you follow him and get those retweets out. So I wanted to ask you, I'm sure you've done a million podcasts, and one of the things that I try to do when I talk to guys is I try not to ask them 50 million things they've been asked before, so hopefully I won't ask you anything that you've been asked before. So I know in doing some research, because I can only imagine how aggravating that would be, answering the same thing over and over. I know in doing some research, yeah. There you go. Well, I know in doing research, so you were a basketball player, football player. outside of wrestling, are you a fan of other pro sports currently? I mean, I don't know that, so I figured, hey, let's get into, Donovan Dijak's mind and see outside of wrestling and the things that he does as far as his career and then, work that he does on his, full-time job level. Are you a fan of any teams? If so, who are they?
Yeah, so when I was in college, I was actually recruited by some college football teams. I was recruited by Boston College, Syracuse, the University of Massachusetts. I ended up going to the University of Massachusetts to play football for a year. But for whatever reason around here, college football isn't big. Like, nobody cares that much, probably because they're not that good. But our pro sports teams are at least in recent years, very successful. So that's what's always been big around here. And even honestly, before they were successful, like I remember back when I was a kid, pro sports was a big thing, even though they all stunk. But yeah, we supported them regardless. I've always been a huge Patriots fan. More recently, especially when I was a kid and then through my teenage years and into college, I was a big Red Sox and Celtics fan, which is very difficult now that I'm a pro wrestler. It's hard to follow the because that's kind of like a time filler sport. Like every day at 7 p.m., like you got something, you go sit down and go. Now every day at 7 p.m. I'm training or lifting or doing something, so I don't have much time for the Celtics and the Red Sox anymore. The Bruins I was never a huge fan of. I don't know, ice hockey just never really clicked with me. Probably because I'm terrible at skating. But yeah, the Patriots are definitely something. Even though I still have shows on Sundays, I can find time to either watch it on my phone. Once a week is something I can commit to pretty easily. So I've always been a huge Patriots fan, and now that I'm a pro wrestler and that kind of envelops my life, that's the one team that I can really stick with.
Yeah, football in general, like you said, is easy to follow. I mean, I'm a college football fan, NFL fan for the most part. Well, I follow my teams, but it's like you said, it's one day where with basketball, in baseball, it's so hard because you have a game every day, or in basketball every other day or every 2 days. Sometimes you have back-to-backs. It's just really hard to fill that time slot, to set that time aside. That's why I was just curious more, like I said, on the, everybody, they'll get on these podcasts and we'll ask questions related to wrestling, which I do have some, but just to get into the mind of you and the things that you like, that's why I asked that. So I'm not surprised that you're a Patriots fan, though. I'm not surprised that you're a Patriots fan. You're from that area. So what did you think about the whole Tom Brady and the deflated balls conspiracy theory? If I can ask.
Yeah, it's definitely a dual-sided coin. To me, I feel like he probably, first of all, to me that seems like a rule that's like kind of stupid. Like if I had to guess, I would guess that he was aware of it. He probably didn't know like exactly what it was, and he probably knew that he was breaking it. But it's almost one of those rules that like if it were me, I wouldn't like care that I were breaking that. Like when I played, for example, to give an example, when I played basketball in college, I prefer the basketball to be a little softer, a little more deflated because I'm a big guy. I don't shoot as much. I like to palm the ball. And I wasn't like the best player on my team, so I didn't get to make that call. But if I were, I'd probably deflate the ball to my liking. And does that sound illegal to me? Yeah, it probably is. I'm not going to go like seek out the rule and look in the rule book because that's a dumb rule. Because to me, like anyone's allowed to do that. Like why shouldn't people be able to play with the ball at whatever pressure they feel like playing? Because to me, that's not some sort of distinct advantage. That's a comfort thing. It's not like adding something foreign to the ball. Like I'm going to put some sort of grease something on the ball to make it go faster or something like they do in baseball. It's literally like if you want to play with a completely deflated flat ball, you should be able to do that. I don't think that's going to give you an advantage. Or if you want to pump the thing up until it explodes and it's as hard as a rock, that's not going to give me an advantage. That's just whatever you happen to prefer. So to me, it's a dumb rule, and I imagine that he was probably aware of the rule and probably just didn't care that he was breaking it because it was so stupid. That being said, I can't speak to the cover-up aspects of it. I don't know what happened in everybody's mind in that portion of the proceedings, but yeah, as far as it goes in terms of like the moral value of it, I think people are completely over, and I'm trying to stay as unbiased as possible. Like yes, I'm a huge Patriots fan, and I try to. I'd say more often than not when Patriots fans are like freaking out about stuff and they're complaining about the refs or whatever, I often err on the side of not being a homer and saying, all right, the Patriots do get a lot of calls and
yeah.
So I try to make sure that I'm not a homer in that sense. But when I really take a step back and kind of look at this situation from a former player's perspective, to me, it just seems silly, Like, it seems silly that it occurred in the first place. Like, I get that it did, and I get that he broke the rules and whatever, but even if that's a rule that's broken, it should be like a fine or something. Like, it's not like he destroyed the integrity of the game. Like, it's a ball that was, like, kind of flat. Like, I don't to me, that's not cheating. Like, Spygate is cheating. Spygate, they cheated. They recorded other teams while they were practicing. That, to me, that's like, we know this rule and we're going to cheat and do it anyway. Okay, now fine them. Now take away the game. Take away the draft.
Right.
All that stuff. But like deflating a ball, that's like a personal preference thing to me.
No, it is. I actually equated the deflation of the ball to similar to the Saints, because I'm a Saints fan. I'm originally from New Orleans, and I compared it to the whole bounty scandal. And hear me out why I say that. It's because, I played a little bit in high school, and you played in college, but football is a brutal sport. You're already out there trying to take a guy's head off. So to sit there and go, oh, well, it's a bounty program, we're paying to take a guy's head off. Football players are already out there trying to take guys' heads off. That's what they do. I mean, if you know anything about this sport, you'll know that that's part of the game. I mean, it's still part of the game, whether people want to realize it or not. So I kind of compared it to that. It's like, oh, you got to be kidding me. So we paid a heavy price.
Right. I didn't get the details of the Bounty Gate thing. I mean, I did. I don't really remember them. What was the coach offering payment for people who injured the other players? What was it?
Allegedly, yeah, because well, here's the thing. Everybody likes to talk about like they were guilty, but in the end, the players never served suspension because it ended up being overruled. However, since the coach since the players have a union, they were able to fight it. Coaches don't have a union. Peyton had to sit out the whole season.
Right.
The problem, but I go back to me, it was similar to what you said with the whole inflated ball thing. It's like, I mean, was he breaking the rule? Technically, but it's a personal preference. Like you mentioned baseball, where the guys will put stuff on the ball, and it's like it's the same concept, but it's just kind of like the way it's legislated. It made no sense. Like I'm kind of fed up with the NFL in many ways because of their rules similar to that. Like you said, with Spygate, they actually cheated. They were actually cheating in that example. It wasn't that Brady was cheating. So I was just curious, and I didn't mean to get us spun off into the whole NFL is corrupt discussion, because I actually talk about that sometimes on the show. I talk about that sometimes on the show, even though it's a pro wrestling show. I have this belief that there's part of me that I think the NFL is a work. Just there's so many rules with it that just dumbfound me, and I'm like, it just gets on my nerves sometimes. So, we'll leave that one in the past for now. So I wanted to move to you retweeted this week in preparation for the Destination America show with you and Moose, and I wanted to tell you because I tweeted it to you, but to see two big guys like you with your agility is a treat, and I said that on Twitter because you see a lot of smaller guys do these things, and this is not to say you and Moose were doing the same thing. It's just to see you all in that environment and to do the things that y'all are doing was a treat. I actually had a friend of mine back in the Indies years ago. He was not your size, but he was about 5'9". He was a little over 300 pounds, and he was very acrobatic. I mean, for his size, and he would always say, I'm as big as I am. It means a lot more when I do that stuff than some of the little guys. And I just wanted to say, I had to tell you personally, that was a treat to watch you and him get out there and do some of the stuff that you're doing, because while you're not doing the same thing as some of the, I guess you'll call them high flyers, you're still showing your agility, and it's something to see you at 6'7". I'm not trying to blow smoke up your butt, but it's something to see a guy your size, 6'7", do the things that you do in the ring with the control that you have. It's amazing to watch. So I just wanted to tell you that that was something else, man.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, when Moose and I going into that match, we're both aware of some of the stuff that we're capable of doing, and even though it wasn't that long of a match, and actually probably a third of it ended up getting edited out for TV, which ironically is the parts where we kind of slowed down. So really, the fact that it's like a 4-minute match and we're just flying around the whole time isn't exactly what we're capable of, because it makes us look a lot like faster and like we have more stamina than we probably do in real life. But yeah, it's definitely getting a great reception. I mean, for what it was, I mean, normally guys like he and I, we're I don't want to say discouraged from doing stuff like that, but we're always told like protect our size and all that that sort of stuff. Which honestly, I think that's part of it that I'm not sure that a lot of people and it definitely had something to do with the edits for TV. But if we could go back and do that again, I'd probably take out like 1 or 2 of the high spots we did, just to make sure that the stuff we did do got emphasized. That being said, Moose and I put a lot of thought into making sure that stuff, that when we do it, that it means a lot. In this particular scenario, it was tough because it was a short, quick match. It's just an opener, and it was kind of just like like a hey, look what we can do sort of thing. But that being said, we put a lot of time into our training and our all the little nuances of professional wrestling. A lot of stuff that kind of goes unnoticed, especially when you have a quick match like that. But it's definitely fun to work with Moose. I look forward to working with him in the future. And if he and I are ever presented with an opportunity to have a match that's a little longer, I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised by the way that he and I can work together.
Yeah, I was impressed. I'd love to see it. I'm an ROH fan. I'll sit down and I'll watch it, which actually leads into my next question. I've kind of said this before on Twitter about ROH. I almost wish it was 2 hours. However, I can appreciate the fact that it's a 1-hour program, because with the 1 hour, I'm slightly older than you. I'm born in '75, so I grew up in the territory days of like me watching Bill Watts' Mid-South and Fritz's World Class in Texas. With that said, do you feel having only 1 hour a week for the program actually helps the product for Ring of Honor, because it does not oversaturate things for the audience? Because that's like the thing that I keep coming back to. I go, yeah, it'd be nice to have 2 hours, but then I go, wait, having that 1 hour, it kind of actually makes it special in a way. It's hard to explain. I don't know if that's the best way to articulate it, but that's kind of how I feel. So I just wanted to ask you and get your thoughts on that as well.
I definitely see it from both points of view. It's cool to have that sort of that unique feeling. I'm trying to think of how to describe it. It just when it's just an hour and it's sort of like a channel that not everybody gets, and it's on late at night. It almost has that sort of feel like I'm seeing something really special here. Like I'm one of the few who gets to see this.
Right.
So that's cool, and to be I mean, for lack of a better term, cool. I mean, I don't want to sound like a 12-year-old boy, but it definitely has a unique feel to it. that being said, from someone who works for the company, obviously we'd love to have more time on television. You know, that means more sponsors and more financing from Sinclair and Destination America and whoever else picks us up. So from that aspect, plus from the aspect where, you know, I'm a huge fan of professional wrestling, like the in-ring product of professional wrestling. So I personally can't get enough. You know, like Ring of Honor has the 1 hour television show, but I have the whole Ring of Honor archive, so I can go back and watch like episodes from this, that, and the other thing. So for them to put on a 1 hour show to me specifically isn't like, oh man, you know, it's really neat and unique that I'm catching this, because I can watch just an unlimited supply of Ring of Honor whenever I want. I got Ring of Honor, you know, flowing out of my ears. I got so much of it. So to me, it's not like, oh, you know, I'm glad I was able to catch this. You know, I'd love to have as much as humanly possible, because I already have as much, you know, at my fingertips. And I think we're coming to a day and age where that's kind of the case for everybody. You know, like there's just so many different. Like, I totally understand, like, how hot, like, Monday Night Raw was back in the late 90s, and how ECW was, like, this thing. Like, when I was a kid, ECW, if you were someone who watched ECW, that was, like, very unique. Like, I was a big wrestling fan. I had no idea how to watch ECW. I think it was on, like, the Spanish channel at, like, 1 in the morning or something, and DVR didn't exist. So, like, that was a thing. Like, if you knew how to get that and how to watch that, you were like breaking the rules to watch it, you know. You were like the cool kid on the street. So that's especially. And Monday Night Raw, kind of the same thing, because it was like 9 p.m. at night, and you know, it was live, and you know, if you could VHS it, I guess, but if you didn't get to DVR it, and you couldn't watch it on YouTube or anything. So if you missed it, you missed it, and that was it, you know. So so I get that aspect of it, but I think in today's day and age, you know, even ROH, I mean, we post the show on our website the next day, and who doesn't have the internet? So it's you really don't have an excuse to miss it nowadays. So it loses aspect of it. It loses that aspect of it. So in that sense, I'd be I don't think it'd be a huge hit if we bumped it up to 2 hours. But at least from a storyline sense, I definitely get where you're coming from.
Yeah, the good thing, I talk to my buddy that does the show with me all the time. With the 1 hour, the point you made, it's about it's hard to miss it, and you only have 1 hour. Whereas with WWE, you have 3 hours on Monday, 2 hours on Thursday. You got NXT. There's so much time that you have to commit to actually being able to watch it. Whereas with ROH, you know, it actually comes on twice in my area. It actually just went off a little while ago. But you got Saturday here, and then Destination America, where it comes on Wednesday. I selfishly, I'd want 2 hours just because I like the product. This is going to sound crazy. People listening to me that know about the Mid-South days are going to say, no, it's not the same. The look of it reminds me of when I watched wrestling as a kid. The presentation of it, I should say, in the smaller arenas, which I like that, but I mean the in-ring product is completely different, but just the look of it. So I wouldn't be mad if they went to 2 hours, and I'm sure as a talent, like you said, you kind of, you know, it would give you probably some TV time as well, because it's hard. I don't know how many guys that you all have on your roster or under contract, but I can imagine, you know, if you got, let's say, I don't know, I'm throwing a number out there, so don't quote me, 30 to 40 guys, it's hard for 1 hour to get, you know, everybody to have TV time weekly, so to say. So I'd love to see 2 hours, though. That'd be cool if they did it. But if not, hey, we appreciate the one. I know I'm probably one of many that would say that. Hey, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, I was making sure I didn't lose you. So, hey, I know you got your professional wrestling start in 2013, and well deservedly, from what I've seen of you, have risen really quickly. Is there something that you would put a finger on that has helped you more than anything, or someone that's helped you more than anything besides maybe the obvious, the school you went to, as far as your success goes in the business and how you've learned and improved so quickly?
It's hard to say that there's one specific thing. It's definitely a multitude of reasons. I mean, like you said, first and foremost is the school. I go to the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, and I train under, originally Warbeard Hansen was a trainer there, but now I train under a guy named Brian Fury, who is, in my opinion, probably the most underrated trainer in the world. Just a guy who has a wealth of knowledge. And I've trained with most reputable trainers in schools, and Brian Fury is one of the best, if not the best. It's hard to say, but and especially if you just look at his body of work. I mean, he's the original trainer of Biff Busick, who was just signed to NXT, Sasha Banks, who a lot of people consider the best women's wrestler in the world. So and he's only been training for like 5 or 6 years. So to have that resume at that short amount of time is really saying something. That being said, I'd say some of the other big factors are coming from the New England area. It's just there's a real prestige around professional wrestling here. Maybe prestige isn't the word, but like a pedigree, I guess. Like just the amount of capable guys who come from this area, the amount of schools that are capable of training the right way. The fact that Kowalski's was here, that Steve Bradley trained here originally, that Spike Dudley started a school here. Really reputable sort of schools sort of stake their claim in New England. Now we're starting to see the branching off of all of that, all of those original schools that had so much success. So that's part of it. The fact that there's so many indies around here, so there's never a lack of work, especially for a young green guy coming up through the business. That helped out a lot. The fact that this area has 3 or 4 like really top end sort of promotions, one of which is directly connected with my my training facility, and it's called Chaotic Wrestling. Again, a promotion that put out all sorts of top guys, like guys who worked at Chaotic are Kofi Kingston, Damian Sandow. Both those guys trained in the Chaotic system. John Cena worked at Chaotic Wrestling. So there's all sorts of guys who stake their claim in Chaotic. So I right from the beginning, I got to work for them. And now we have companies like Beyond Wrestling, which has a national presence. XWA, Northeast Wrestling are all companies that I get to work for locally that they bring in guys who are really good, So I'm capable of wrestling high quality talent even from an early stage in my career. And that being said, when I wasn't working for those companies, I was working for smaller companies. So really from the beginning, it was also a sort of thing where it was kind of a baptism by fire type deal, because there's so many companies in New England that like I always had work. And even if the work was with somebody who wasn't very good, that gives me an opportunity to be a leader in the ring, even though I had no business being a leader in the ring. If you're put in a position where it's one of your first matches ever and the other guy's not good, even though you're super green, you still have to take control, and you gotta be able to communicate with the other guy and be able to tell him what you're trying to do and be able to do it quickly. So that's the baptism by fire sort of aspect. So it's twofold in that aspect where I got to do that. Being a bigger guy, I was in a lot of squash matches earlier, so I had a lot of experience sort of taking control and being in the driver's seat for a lot of matches. And now I'm getting the experience, working all sorts of, great talent and like higher quality caliber wrestlers. So So it's definitely the best of both worlds. And so I'd say that, combined with the fact that I started a little later than most guys, so both physically and mentally, I was a little more advanced than like an 18-year-old starting off, per se, because I started when I was 25. Plus, I had the football and basketball background, so I had athleticism going for me. Obviously, I'm a taller guy, so that opens doors a lot more quickly in the wrestling world. It gets you noticed a lot quicker. So it's definitely a combination of like all of those things. It's hard to say. That and just going into it with the right attitude. From football and basketball, I was always taught from a young age that you got to have a very strong work ethic, and not a lot of guys in pro wrestling do. A lot of guys feel like there's something owed to them, or that they don't have to, once they reach a particular a status, that they don't have to try as hard anymore. And that I've never felt that that's the case. To me, even if you're the best football or basketball player in the world, to maintain that status, you have to keep practicing. And for whatever reason, professional wrestlers feel like once they become really good that they don't have to practice anymore. And if you're not wrestling, every single weekend, then you got to be in the training center, practicing at least, in my opinion. But different guys have different opinions. So
you said a mouthful right there. There's a lot of guys that I've heard that from a lot of people. It's like they reach a certain status, or they have a few matches, and then it's like, I don't need to train anymore, and that's wrong attitude to have. So hey, I agree. You said a mouthful. I won't. There's a question. I had a buddy of mine. He's listened to a couple of podcasts you've been on, and he goes, whatever you do, don't ask him who his dream match would be against, or who he'd like to work maybe in the future, because I've heard hm say Cesaro a million times. So I'm like, okay, I'm glad you said that. I wasn't going to ask that question, but so you don't have to worry about me asking that. But anyway, evidently he had said that you've mentioned that a million times.
Yeah, I've mentioned that a million times. And there's that one, and then asking me how I came up with my finisher. I've probably answered that like 600,000 times.
Hey, well, I don't have those on the docket today, so
okay, good. If anyone is interested in the answer to those questions, just listen to any other podcast that I've ever done.
Hey, well, hopefully I've strayed away from most of the things you've been asked. So, because that is my goal whenever I bring a guy
very
on.
much so. It's much more enjoyable not having to answer the same questions over and over again.
Same thing. Well, I got a buddy of mine who he runs a indie promotion down in South Louisiana, and he's done a bunch of podcasts, and I don't know if you ever heard of him. His name's Luke Hawks, and Luke.
I've met him before in. Where did I meet him? I met him in Charlotte, or outside of Charlotte, at the NWA Legends.
Okay.
Convention. Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't like establish any sort of personal relationship. We met in passing. He's trained a few guys who've had success, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Trainer now. Yeah.
They got their own school. Really successful promotion down there too. I mean, they really draw solid houses for an indie promotion that has no TV and whatnot. So my listeners, they'll hear me talk about it all the time. But he's a good friend of mine. We've been friends a long time, and he was. I brought that up about the questions because he goes, Mike, whatever you do. He's like, just try to be aware as much as you can when you bring guys on, and don't ask the same dumb questions. Because he told me one day, I go on these podcasts, he's like, the guys ask me the same questions. I'm like, have you listened to the last 10 I've done? I go, I got you, man. I'm way ahead of you. So that's why I bring that up. But luckily I had a friend of mine. I haven't listened to yours, but I've had a friend of mine. He's like telling me what to not ask you. Anyway. Hey, last question, and I'll let you go because you give me a lot of your time. I always ask this for the guys that I bring on that have established a name or in the process of establishing a name, and like yourself, who really on the rise and doing some great things with Ring of Honor and the House of Truth. I always ask, give me one or two guys out there who have not hit the national spotlight yet that you feel, and I know this may be hard to name one or two, name one or two or a couple of guys that you think are, man, they're right there. You just haven't heard of them because they're not on national TV, but they're supremely talented, and they're people who, bar none, deserve a shot.
My trainer, Brian Fury, is
there you go.
Definitely at the first and foremost of that list.
Gotcha.
He's a guy who's been wrestling for, like 15 years now. Let's put it this way. If you'd asked me that question about I guess a year and a half or 2 years ago, then 1 and 1A would have been Brian Fury, and at the time he was Todd Hansen. Now he's Warbeard Hansen. So everybody knows how well Hansen's doing because now he's in the national stage, and it took him like 5 minutes before he was in pay-per-view main event. His tag team is one of, if not the best tag team in Ring of Honor right now. So everybody's seen what he can do. Brian Fury is just a chance away from accomplishing that exact same path. He's a guy who, for whatever reason, just hasn't been given a chance. I think he was definitely going to be in the top prospect tournament for Ring of Honor the year that Hansen was in it, so 2 years ago. And literally right before they made the announcements, he was wrestling Chris Masters, and he landed on his own ankle and fractured it. And so he had to take 6 months off to fix it up. Or if that hadn't happened, then everybody would probably know who he is right now, unfortunately. But that's kind of the way that wrestling works. And as good of a wrestler as he's probably an even better trainer. So I don't think he's going to be struggling for work anytime going forward. If you ever talk to anyone who's ever seen indie wrestling in New England, Brian Fury's the face of independent professional wrestling in New England. Like, it's not even debatable. He's like the top guy, and has been for about 5 or 6 years now. So that being said, I hope that he's in this year's top prospect tournament. He probably will be, and he deserves to be there. Again, barring a catastrophic injury or something like that. And if he is in this year's tournament, I wouldn't be surprised if he wins the whole thing. And he's a guy who belongs in Ring of Honor, because he's that good. And the fact that more people haven't been able to see him is detrimental to the professional wrestling community. And again, he's a little older than most professional wrestlers. I think he just turned 35 or 36 or something. So his window's closing, So he's got and he's a good friend of mine, so he won't mind me saying this. He's got a few good years definitely left under the belt. Maybe more than a few good years left under the belt, and even after he decided to hang up the boots, he's got a long career as a trainer ahead of him, because he's one of the best minds in the business. So he's definitely a clear-cut number one on my list. Number two, because you asked me to list two guys, I'm trying to think. I don't want to just name my friends, so I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. But again, a guy that people might remember from last year's top prospect tournament, Mikey Webb. He's a guy that I came up in the business with. Just a supremely talented in-ring guy. I mean, he and I have traveled the nation. We just recently went to Harley Race's camp together, and it seems like every camp that we go to, we get to wrestle each other and wrestle other people, and everywhere we go, he always sticks out. He's the guy who can work with anybody. He can do anything. He's a great storyteller. He's a great in-ring technician. He's terrible at promos, and he'll admit that, which is a part of professional wrestling, but it's not. At this level, it's not the most important part of professional wrestling. So it's definitely something he's working on now. Right now, he fractured his hand or something, so he's using this time to do improv classes, which I think is huge for him. So he's going to come back looking different, being different, hopefully being better at the charisma and promo aspect of it, because he has the in-ring thing down. And even though he and I have limited experience in professional wrestling, we're fortunate to be in similar situations in terms of training and area and guys to work with and stuff like that. So he's he's just incredibly talented. He was in last year's top prospect tournament. He wasn't happy with his performance in it. If anybody remembers from early January of this year, Ring of Honor Television, he wrestled Beer City Bruiser in the first round in a taping in Nashville. It wasn't. He'll admit that it wasn't his best performance, and he regrets it, and he's just waiting on his next opportunity. And when he gets that opportunity, I'm sure he's gonna take advantage of it.
Was he a young guy, Donovan?
Is he a young guy?
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like well, you were talking about Brian being 35, 36. I was just curious if he was younger or.
Webb's around my age. We're both about 28. I can't remember when his birthday is exactly, but yeah, we're both around 28. Which is another reason that he can be only, I think he's 3 or 4 years in, so he doesn't have a ton of experience. But again, when you start at that later age, the things just progress that much quicker. It's hard for an 18, 19-year-old kid to get the muscle memory stuff, to get the dedication aspect of it, because they got all sorts of things going on in their lives, whether it be like college or girls or family or whatever happens to be. But once you hit that 25, 26, you get to settle down both mentally and physically, and you can really start to dedicate your life to something if you need to.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that for guys that start in their 18, 19, 20. If you're still in school and you're working, and that's a lot, because you had finished school and everything by the time you started, right?
I had, yeah. I had my master's degree, and I had already started a full-time job for a year when I first started training to be a pro wrestler.
That makes a world of difference too. It makes a world of difference.
I think so. If I could do it all again, I don't think I would have changed anything. I don't think I would have gone back and started training when I was 18, because I think I got a lot out of football and basketball and going to college and everything like that. And I had fun and I enjoyed those sports. But if I could change one thing, then the second I graduated, I would have signed up for pro wrestling, because I think that would have been about the same. I started training when I was 25. I think if I had started training when I was 24, it would have been the same thing, and I'd just have an extra year under my belt right now. So, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm progressing at a pace that I like right now. So I'm just gonna have to continue to be patient.
Hey, no, you're doing great. I actually have listeners up in the Northeast area who one of them got you to sign a 8x10 for one of my co-hosts a couple weeks ago. I think it was at Chaotic, unless it was somewhere else. Anyway,
was that the Doc one?
Yeah, Doc Turner. That's my Doc Turner is my co-host, and one of the guys up there, he's like, I'm gonna get an autograph. I'm like, okay, and him and there's a couple of other people that have tweeted me and going, hey, you need to get Donovan Dijak. You need to get Donovan Dijak. And I'm like, I didn't really have a connection, so I just went out on a whim to say, hey, you mind coming on? Because one of the things I do when I bring on guests, I try to network with the guys that I know because it's hard to ask somebody to come on your show and they don't really know you, and I can only feel like I understand what a talent would be kind of apprehensive if they don't know someone to actually go on their show. So he was like, you got to get him. He's one of the top prospects, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm familiar with him. I've seen him. He's really, really good. So he's like, I'm going to get an autograph. I'm like, his name's TK. He was like, yeah, I'm going to get his autograph and send it to your co-host. Yep. So that's how that came out. And then I had other people going, hey, man, you got to get this guy on your show. I'm like, all right, I'll try. So, but I'll let you plug your Twitter. I think you actually did. No, go ahead and plug your Twitter and your Facebook, any other social media you have before I let you get out of here.
Sure, I'll try to do it quickly. Everything I have on social media is Donovan Dijak. It's DONOVANDIJAK. That's Facebook.com/Donovan Dijak. My Twitter, you can follow me at Donovan Dijak. Instagram is Donovan Dijak 44. The number 44, that is. And then Pro Wrestling Tees, if you want to buy one of my T-shirts, is ProWrestlingTees.com/Donovan Dijak. And I don't know the link offhand, but before you do any of that stuff, I'd appreciate it way more if you could donate to my GoFundMe to support breast cancer, the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. Just kind of either Google it or kind of scroll about my Twitter or my Facebook, and you'll be able to find the link relatively easily. We did meet the expectation earlier today, but but I'm not just gonna like pocket the rest of the money. The more people donate to it, the more we can continue to donate, and that's always an awesome thing. I'm gonna up the goal later today so we can start to work towards a new goal. But yeah, that's right now. That's definitely the best way that you can support me is by donating to that fund.
Cool. And what I'll do, this isn't going to air for probably till towards the end of November, just based on what I've got recorded already and some of the stuff that I have coming up. But what I'll do is I am definitely going to, if I notice, because I'll follow on Twitter, if I notice you've updated and said something related to maybe another fund, like another organization or whatnot, I'll update it. That way they know what it's going to, and I will continuously tweet it out because I like spreading the word. And man, there's so many GoFundMes that are not positive, let's just say that, without bashing anyone. And yours is, like we talked about at the beginning, is very much positive. So I'll definitely tweet that out and keep my fans that listen to this show posted. But Donovan, you've given me a lot of your time. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. Best of luck in the future with everything Ring of Honor related and anything else. And I look forward to maybe meeting you one day if you're on a show somewhere in my area. Other than that, man, again, thanks for coming on.
Definitely. Thank you very much for having me.